Well, it is time for us to take a dive into one of our favorite supplements here. One of them is new, and one of them is tried and true, is one that people are really familiar with if you've been around Young Living long enough. But I don't know if it's just me or if some of you all have seen that as you know, search Instagram or look at your social media feeds or, I mean, I'm even like in podcasts, it's supporting podcasts and things, but I'm just constantly hearing a full court press for greens supplements. And so I thought it would just be advantageous for us to remember that we have some really great green access to green supplements here as a part of our Young Living, 600 plus products that Young Living offers us. We have two options for greens, and I kind of wanted to do a little bit of a distinction because, like I said, one of them is newer. You may not be super familiar with it, and one of them is capsule and one is powder. And so I just want you to be aware of what the differences are, what be a reason that you might take green supplements, and then just maybe how you might think about these two things and what their distinct roles are. So I think to start off, though, we should ask the question, like, whose diet doesn't need balancing in some ways, right? Rounding out those kinds of things. Similar to when we talk about like Ningxia Red, it's important to consider factors that make for the subpar diet that most of us, especially in the West, but even more specifically in America, often struggle to have a really whole foods based diet, or eat clean, or whatever label you want to put on it, that for all the variety of reasons that exist in our world, whether you want to talk about farming practices or you want to talk about accessibility, whether you want to even in this moment talk about inflation or other things, it kind of goes without saying that many of us would like it if we could say that we ate a little bit better. We would love to have a few more greens in our life. We would love to be people who love to take the time to make big, beautiful salads, for us to consume with lots of different additions to the salad. But the reality is most of our lives just don't really support that habit all the time. So that's why we want you to consider these. We want you to consider what adding these greens, these supplements to your life, how they might help you. When we take Young Living, and so one of the distinctions, and one of the things that we're going to talk about is the distinction that is a Young Living product versus what you might find elsewhere on the market. When we talk about Young Living's essential oil infused vitamins and supplements, the absorption rate of what you're taking increases dramatically compared to formulas without essential oils. And that's because the essential oils help our bodies to take in and use the vitamins and minerals in our supplements in a more holistic way. They make the greens and the supplements more bioavailable. So it's just easier for our cells to access these things, our bodies to access these things. Essential oils work as like little freight carriers to get the good things that we're taking into our bloodstream and cells. Additionally, they have health benefits of their own, as we know, as we've practiced learning and have talked about over and over again in Essential Ed and other groups that we're a part of, and that Young Living reminds us of. So they are not only that carrier and transporter, but they have their own special chemical constituents as well. So both Multigreens and Ningxia Greens contain several really great essential oils. It's the same formula used in both. And so we'll talk about the specifics of that. Another consideration for why a green supplement might be something you want to consider is that often we can find our bodies tired, run down. And when our physical bodies are tired and run down, our emotions follow that as well. I mean, I think anybody can relate to feeling emotionally exhausted if we're physically exhausted as well. So sometimes in other extremes, sometimes our emotions alert us that our physical health is declining as well. Sometimes maybe you're somebody who is more inclined to be able to pick up on those cues about your physical body being run down by your emotions, or maybe you're somebody that does it the other way around. You don't realize how emotionally you run down until you realize how physically you're run down. So if you add in hormones to that mix, and stress, cortisol levels, thyroid, other essential hormones, that can all have variations and affect the way that we're feeling emotionally, the way that we're feeling physically. These are all factors that we need to take into consideration. So when we're feeling this way or these ways, that's when it's especially important to supplement well. Ideally, we're already supporting our bodies and our emotions with baseline supplements like a Ningxia Red Daily, Super B, those kinds of things. But these greens will just kind of add to that mix. So let's kick it off with talking about multigreens. Multigreens combines bee pollen, nutritious greens like barley grass, spirulina, eleuthero root, choline, alfalfa, kelp, and other proprietary essential oils, which we'll talk about, to boost the vitality. It supports overall glandular, nervous, circulatory systems. It's kind of a gentle detox, not something over the top, but it's got nutrient-dense chlorophyll aspects to it. And it has greens in the mix with essential oils, and overall it's just going to give overall health, energy levels, and just general well-being by supporting your glandular, nervous, and circulatory systems. And I'm going to just kind of go through some of the contents. Now, I'm not going to cover all of them, and I'm not going to actually also cover I'm going to touch a little bit on bee pollen, but I'm not going to go a deep dive into bee pollen. So you go investigate the benefits of it. One of the key distinctions, and as you think about which or both of these supplements might be good for you, definitely take a look. You're going to want to look at that ingredient list and see which one seems like one that you would want to consider. So bee pollen is high in protein, vitamins, and minerals, including potassium, calcium, magnesium, zinc, and B vitamins. And it's very supportive and protective of the liver and assists with macronutrient assimilation. Bee pollen is coming, it's super trendy. But Young Living knew about it, and it's Gary Young knew about it before the trend started. So bee pollen is what you see in that rectangle at the top there in the middle. That's sort of what bee pollen looks like in its natural state. Barley grass is one of the other contents, is a nutrient-rich superfood loaded with vitamins A, B, C, E, and K. Full of antioxidants, excellent source of both soluble and insoluble fibers, which we all you can Google the distinction of soluble versus insoluble. I won't go too far into that, but barley grass serving as another component of what makes multigreens great. Spirulina, a source of chlorophyll, antioxidants, and magnesium that protects against oxidative stress, damage, and it supports the liver. It supports the digestive tract. It supports the immune system, the cardiovascular system, and supports seasonal discomfort and energy levels, which we know, when the outside environment is affecting you, it's going to also affect your energy level and your body's overall ability to properly support your immune system and all those other things. It has choline. Choline is an essential micronutrient necessary for numerous bodily processes, including proper nerve function, brain development, muscle mobility, and liver support. So choline is one not to be missed. Eleuthero root, I'm probably saying that wrong, but what's interesting about this is that it's an adaptogenic herb. And so it helps with cortisol levels and kind of helps give the body a natural boost to resist stress by providing energy and strengthening the immune cell and immune system function. There's also alfalfa leaf, supportive of blood sugar levels and an array of other things that I won't detail specifically, but you can look up the benefits of alfalfa leaf if you want. Pacific kelp. Kelp contains iodine, vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. So those are all really great and supportive of the thyroid and the endocrine systems. It has multiple amino acids, 3 specific ones, and that kind of help those those three help the body with proper circulation, supportive of the liver, and many other things. Now into the essential oils, there's a combination of these four essential oils. And again, like I said, this will also be applicable to the Ningxia Greens. It has rosemary essential oil, which is really supportive of the endocrine system and supportive of the liver. Lemon essential oil, high in D-limonene, and just go look that up, the chemical constituent of that. There's a lot of great things that lemon oil can do for you. Lemongrass essential oil that's a key ingredient in the oil blend purification that we all know and love. So just the name of that blend should give you a sense of what exactly lemongrass can offer. And then last, but by far not least, is Melissa. And Melissa essential oil is a powerhouse of an essential oil. And if it's one that you haven't spent any time investigating, you should go check it out. Just do some searching around, and in either this group, we've talked about it a lot in Essential Ed, just use that little magnifying glass in the Facebook group, or start hunting around in some of your resources, or your guides or your books. There's just so much benefit to Melissa essential oil. And if you've never smelled it or tried it, it's a really like bright and clean and crisp smell. And it's just so wonderful. It's like both, like for me, uplifting in your mood, but also it's just so supportive of the body overall. So when you combine those four oils, rosemary, lemon, lemongrass, and Melissa, this is the powerhouse that goes behind the Ningxia Greens and the multi-greens, that is those little freight carriers that we were talking about earlier. So who should consider taking multi-greens? Anyone who needs to improve their iron levels, this would be a good one to try out and see if that supports and helps in that way. People who need minerals and nutrients, individuals with environmental sensitivities or seasonal discomfort, this would be a great and supportive of that. Anyone who wants to support the circulatory system or the nervous system. Anyone who doesn't need a strong whole food containing leafy greens diet. And anyone feeling weak and tired and sluggish, or individuals with who may need support, who may need to support their thyroid more directly. This would be a great supplement for you to try. So that is multi-greens. Again, it's as mentioned on the slide, it's a capsule. So that obviously, like, that's going to be a big distinction. If it's easier for you to remember to take a capsule than it is for you to remember to put something in your smoothie or whatever, then I think that just nails down exactly which one you should take. Or if you just don't prefer the flavors and you're like really specific about what flavor you can and can't tolerate, then having it in a capsule form makes it really easy to make that decision. Next up is the Ningxia Greens. This is newish. I think it was convention of this last year that it came out. So it hasn't even had its full year here in our Young Living arsenal, but I love it. I especially make sure I'm supplementing with Ningxia Greens if people around me aren't feeling well, and I'm trying to really make sure my diet is on the up and up. I'm trying to make sure I'm eating clean things and eating and not adding things like sugar or things that I know can be add to inflammation into my life. So that's when I'm also making sure I'm definitely making sure I'm getting Ningxia Greens, but this is a great one to have every day. So Ningxia Greens has 60 plus whole foods. It has 5 varieties of immune supporting mushrooms, which we'll talk about in a second, plus wolfberry fruit and sprouted leaves from our seed to seal farm in Ningxia, China. So it's carefully extracted using a heat-free method. So in that one scoop of this gives you energy, immune support, and gut health, and represents 2 to 3 servings of vegetables. So that's huge. So I want to talk a little bit, I pulled some of these slides from convention because I just thought they were so cool. And so I want to share a little bit more about this specific product and kind of a zoom in. Of course, this is where Ningxia, China is. If you didn't know where exactly it is, that's where it is. There's a documented use of wolfberries dating back to the Ming Dynasty. This is a much used plant, and the residents in that region, they've enjoyed really astonishing wellness and have really, really long lives compared to other areas in the same general region. And the wolfberry kind of gets highlighted then as this superfruit. And the wolfberry is what we're talking about. It's also, it has a common name of a goji berry, might be another way that you've heard it, but where it's located is really critical. And if you do some reading up on Ningxia Red, you can learn more specific about that. But it makes a big difference that it's being farmed in places that people who have known for centuries how to use and farm this product. The sprouted wolfberry leaves that I mentioned. So workers in the fields are, in this really difficult process, are taking very freshly sprouted leaves and pulling them, very labor intensive. And the fresh leaves are more palatable than the old leaves. And so historically the historic knowledge is to be using the sprouted leaves alongside the berries, not just one or the other. And it goes back again, thousands of years. So these freshly sprouted leaves are rich in A, B, C, and E. They have proteins and minerals, including trace minerals. We know that goji berry has protein in it, which is just like kind of crazy to think about. Has beta carotene, flavonoids, essential fatty acids. And so they've, again, this is health. For many generations, this has been used for health supporting teas, and cooking with other really herbaceous roots and things like ginger or other vegetables. So this is the sprouted wolfberry leaves that are a part of this 60+ ingredient list. The other key thing is mushrooms. Now, if you have not done a deep dive in mushrooms, I would encourage you to start looking around. In fact, I'm like on the verge of trying to locate a local mushroom group or foray where you can go out and look at, be taught by people who are foragers how to look at mushrooms and tell the difference. But mushrooms are like the in thing right now, right? We're finding, but if you think much of what we, so even some of our modern medicine, the things that we rely heavily on in our society and in our cultures to help treat things, we found out about them through mushrooms, and there's still even more research being done, but it's just such a vast field. These mushrooms that we're talking about in Ningxia Greens are rich, immune enhancing beta glucans, dozens of antioxidants, including quercetin, which is something we talked about a second ago, or last 2 weeks ago, when we talked about pollen problems and how to support your body through seasonal discomfort, quercetin being a really important thing. It contains prebiotic fibers to support the gut and the microbiome. It contains those healthy energy level enhancing things, and be a part of any whole, any health and wellness goals. Mushrooms are definitely incorporated and are considered really good. And people are putting mushrooms in their coffee. You can get mushroom powder at the grocery store and things now. So mushrooms are like, they're having their moment. They also have been used also for many, many generations. There's many references to them in folk medicine, and in like a lot of native, even I was watching a show on Australia and the native cultures in Australia and their knowledge of mushrooms and their uses. They're rich in soluble fibers and beta glucans. Which are present in the cells of the functional mushrooms. Ningxia Greens contain shiitake, maitake, reishi, inikotake, and turkey tail. I'm not going to try that one. And take in Japanese just means mushroom. So they all are super helpful for immune system. Mushrooms are also they have some adaptogenic properties. And so that's another piece of what makes Ningxia Greens so great. I want to, kind of come back to this slide and just spend a minute talking about the other aspects of Ningxia Greens. It has a fermented superfood blend, and that delivers nutrients that are difficult to obtain in a typical diet. and has enzymes to support digestion in that. It has purslane, which is an edible succulent. And it's one of the few vegetables that is rich in plant-based omega-3 fatty acids, but it also has vitamins and minerals too, including copper, magnesium, iron, manganese, potassium, and vitamins E and C. Purslane is also uniquely rich in 184 phytochemical compounds, including phenolic acid, alkaloids, and flavonoids, which act as antioxidants. There's a flower pollen extract, which is non-allergic and sustainably sourced. And it has amino acids, phytoesterols, fatty acids, carotenoids, flavonoids, all those really great things to help maintain cellular oxidative stress. And it sort of helps support the body overall. It has, like we talked about, that multigreens oil blend. And it's the same, those same 4 oils that were originally formulated by Gary Young, and taking into consideration what oils would be the best carriers, the best freight carriers, if you will, to support the cellular level, getting these great supplements fully incorporated into our body. So like I said, it delivers 2 to 3 servings of fruits and vegetables in every scoop. Powerful dose of antioxidants and vitamins and minerals and other phytonutrients, plus all those mushrooms that we talked about. And it supports so thinking about who should take this: somebody who wants to support their overall healthy immune system, somebody who wants to support digestive health, somebody who's looking for a boost of energy, somebody who just wants to round out a diet. So thinking about the difference between multigreens and Ningxia greens. We talked, if you heard what I said about multigreens, a lot of what we talked about was there's a lot of mention of supportive of the liver. So if you're looking for that kind of thing, it's a gentle detox. It helps support the liver as it, acts as the sponge and the filter for everything in our body. So that's where that is super supportive in that way. Ningxia greens, you could maybe think about it. If you wanted to think about them in categories, you could think about it as a daily supplement for the, greens that you wish that you were getting in your diet, but you fail some days. So those are the kind of the key distinctions and the key differences in the two. There is, of course, much more that could be said about each of them. I have the list of the ingredients of Ningxia greens, but 60 plus ingredients. That would take forever for me to list. That would be like a solid minute of me just reciting things. So maybe I'll paste them in the comments and you can take a look. But again, think about, they're different and they have their unique qualities. Think about what you might need more support in, what might be easier for you to take. Because at the end of the day, we can buy all the supplements we want, but if we're not taking them, if we're not figuring out how to incorporate them into our routine, then like what value is it? So think about what you think would be best for you, how you might most benefit from these supplements, and which ones you'd be more likely to take. There's some really great recipes for how to use Ningxia greens. Of course, you could just put it in your protein smoothie. You can add Ningxia greens to just like your 2 ounces of Ningxia red, and some golden turmeric and some sulfurzyme, and just make like a crazy shot of supplements if you want. But there's some great recipes out there. There's even a whole blog post about Ningxia greens on Young Living's website. If you've never gone to Young Living's blog, I really recommend it. It's pretty cool. I'll share that in the comments as well. It's youngliving.com/blog. And that there's just so many great resources on there. I love checking it out about once a month and just seeing what kind of stuff is there, or just Googling different things in the blog. So I hope that in this, you're finding, when next time you hear a greens ad or you get a targeted ad through your social media account, that you are either reminded to take the supplements you already have, or that you hop on over to Young Living's website and order straight from the source, because none of those greens can compare to the great oil infused supplements that we have here. And of course, don't forget to add these things to your loyalty rewards order. If you're purchasing these, you might as well be doing it through loyalty rewards and be getting points back. Again, it's sort of a monthly auto ship program that's actually completely fully adjustable. There's no requirement to stay on for a long period of time. You can cancel at any time. But there's great benefits that come alongside of it, the very least of which is, earning points back each month and being eligible for promos that you otherwise might not get to. So hope you guys have a great week as we close out April here. We will catch you next time in May.